Hello, hello, hello. So this one's a freaking doozy. This is gonna be a massive story time. May or may not be scripted. It's actually so not scripted. I don't script any of my videos so far, but it's gonna be a hell of a story. I'm going to talk about my investment, my property story, and go through kind of my whole journey with this property. It might take a couple of minutes, 5 minutes or so, and then after that, some tips for you if you decide to do something similar, some things you should be aware of, and really just some things I wish I knew before this whole thing started. So let's get right into it. So basically, I moved out of my parents' home when I was about 19 years old. And in Sydney, that's kind of weird because it's really expensive to move out, and a lot of people stay at home until, they're even 30 or something, which is kind of crazy, but yeah. I had just gotten back from Canada, and and my partner at the time also moved with me. So we were here, and then we decided to move out together, and we moved into a beautiful apartment in the heart of the city. It was maybe a 10-minute walk into the main center of the city, and yeah, it was beautiful. We shared a room together. We had housemates. We had a beautiful view of the city skyline in Sydney. It's very, very expensive to live so close to the city, but we found a really good place. And I ended up getting a job that was a 5-10 minute walk away, right by the water, and it was just this dream come true. We lived in this place for about a year together, and our housemates were great, and there were no issues. We were happy paying the rent that we were paying, and yeah, it was like everything just kind of aligned, and we were there for quite a while, paying rent, and it was just like no issues whatsoever. So then what happened was my partner left, went back to Canada, and we were doing long distance and whatever. And I ended up paying like the full room's rent because it was still really affordable. It was just like way cheaper when we were halving it, splitting it. But after he left, I still had the funds to pay for it, and it was still really convenient for my workplace, so there was no reason for me to leave. The place we lived was a 3-bedroom apartment, and there was access to the roof. It was a very beautiful vintage street. It was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. We always hosted events there and planned board game nights, had barbecues, picnics, whatever you call it. The roof was massive. You could fit maybe 50 to 100 people in it, and I'll insert a picture of the view here. A few. Yeah, but basically it was crazy. So it was just this great deal, and we had so much love attached to this place. Like it was just like one of the most beautiful places. We were so lucky to have found it, and I lived out my dream. Moving out, being independent, being away from family, dream. This whole thing for about a year or two, and this was just like being really young as well. So at the time there were three of us, and yeah, three of us. So we all had our own room, and one of the girls who was the current head tenant, she moved out, and she asked me if I wanted to take over the head tenancy. So what that would mean is I would sign the lease, and it was like a minimum of 6 months or something, and everyone would pay me, and then I would pay the landlord. So we made like a good split, and then we just kind of went about that for a while. But because her room was so big, like she had a studio, like basically a studio apartment in her room. Like she would have her bed, like her wardrobe and everything, plus like a whole area her for her sofa bed and her TV and like wine rack and all this stuff. So basically it was just massive. And instead of, renting that room out as like a $400 room or something, we figured it would be better to we had like all these extra mattresses. So we just made that room like a share room. So it was 2 mattresses, and they both paid $200 each because it was much easier to find like backpackers and stuff. We were in a really buzzing part of Sydney, so we got 2 people to pay $200 instead of getting someone to pay for a $400 room, because how expensive is that? So then we had 4 people living there, and that was probably, you know, always have been the max. Like 4 people being the max kind of amount of people that we could have in this place, and it was great. And you know, like, yeah, our kitchen was going well. Like, we had a nice fire escape. We had like when it was us 4, that first 4 group, it was great. Like, I was living with 3 guys, I think. Yeah, 3 guys. Really close with the first guy that I'd been living with the whole time, and then the other 2 were just super chill, super relaxing, easygoing people. They bought like a coffee machine, they bought a PlayStation, a TV, and like we had another couch, so it's just like it became super homey, super roomy. And I think like after they left, that's when like hell kind of broke loose. So we had so many people coming in and out. Every single time someone left and we had to replace them, it was just like scrounging for someone to come, and it was always like really badly timed. And you know, it always came at the worst time when I was like going through work stuff, or when I was going through major changes, or when I was going through mental health or relationship stuff, and everything always just came down at the exact same time, and it was so freaking stressful. And I think we went through 5 or 6 changes since the 2 guys left, and they told us at the start that it was going to be 4 months, that they could only stay for 4 months. But basically, like, every single time someone left, it would just be me putting up ads and me doing the viewings, and like, the idea was each person, if you left, you would find someone to replace you, but like that just rarely ever happened. So it was always just so stressful, and like managing it, I think I was able to have like a bit cheaper rent or something, but really at the end of the day it was just like, oh, there's so much trouble, right? And I guess skipping all the way till now, I moved out actually, so I got someone to replace my room, and the thing was, because of how the bonds worked, everyone who left the apartment was paid by the new person who came into the apartment after them. And this kind of only worked for a little while, and then it stopped working because the prices of the rents changed, and we couldn't get someone in at a certain time, especially with all the COVID stuff happening recently. So, you know, that bond decreased, so I was paying people's rent from my own money, and it was just like all hell broke loose, I guess. And then now, where I'm currently standing is the rent costs, you know, just under a K each week, and I currently have people in there who are paying like $300, which is nothing, but I needed people in because otherwise no one would have been paying rent. And then the 2 girls who were living there, they decided to move out. They've been using their bond money to pay for rent the last month, and they decided to move out on Monday, so I'm basically going to have to be paying $700 a week from out of pocket, and also all of my bond money is with the landlords. So that's kind of where the current situation stands. I'm finding people like removalists to basically give back the apartment to the landlords and cut my lease because the 6 months is over already. But just making sure that, yeah, like I have all my ducks in a row. I've told the 2 guys that are living there right now that they'll probably have to move out because I can't afford to keep the place if nobody's living there. And it's just really difficult in the sense of, you know, you're waiting for people to reply to an ad, you're waiting for people to, you know, come in for viewings and inspections, but you just can't ever be sure of that process, and you need to kind of make your own steps to prepare for that. So now, I guess, going into the advice section, I've learned a lot over these last 2 years. I'm 22 now, so that happened, you know, pretty recently. I probably moved out only a couple months ago, so I was living there for like 2 years, basically, more or less. And yeah, it was a journey. It definitely started off very dream-esque, very beautiful, no complaints there. But then after a while, I think I was just really kidding myself about how difficult it was and how much money and time I was putting into it and how much I was really getting out of it. and there was a point where it wasn't worth anymore, but I had such emotional attachment to the place that I didn't want to let it go. And yeah, it was just this idea of, oh my god, passive income, blah blah blah, but that's not the most important thing. Your mental health is really important, and I was struggling, you know. But yes, so some of my advice, just like really knowing your rights. So making sure you have tenancy agreements with all of your tenants. My tenancy agreement was just from flatmates.com.au, and what that would include is you know, how much the bond is, how that would work, getting someone to replace your room, otherwise having 4 weeks notice. So like those things, just really simply. Also just asking for ID, because if anything happens, you have your, you know, ID to take to a police station or something, you know, to keep them accountable, to actually have their details and like their passport details, things like that. So just some initial steps for getting tenants in. Number 2 would just be really understanding my lease. When I signed the lease, like, I was like, okay, yeah, I think I get it, but things change and your circumstances change, and the information that actually gleans that, you know, forward that is important changes as well. So with the leasing agreement, just like, you know, having a scanned copy, like really understanding each clause and how that might affect you later on down the line. So one of the things, for example, it's just the New South Wales government, like, housing, you know, Department of Justice and Housing, whatever it is, that form. But like one of the terms is, you know, if it's a fixed agreement or if it's a periodic tenancy agreement, and basically that affects how much notice you need to give your landlords. So right now I'm around like the 2 to 3 week mark. So I need to be paying, you know, rent for a few more weeks before I can leave the place, or at least, you know, figure that out with my landlord. But knowing that as well, if I had known that, I did know it, but knowing that I should have kind of put that notice in when the girls started paying their rent with their bond, because that would have helped me to not be in the situation that I'm in now, where they're moving out without any notice because they don't want to pay rent and they've already used up their bond money, so I don't have any money to cover their current rent situation. But at the time, there were just so many things going on, and everyone in the apartment was telling me, no, please don't let go of the lease, because then we'll be homeless. And it's just like, I really, really, really let my emotions take over this situation, when I really should have been quite analytical and more just thinking about the financial side of things. I really let trying to please everyone get me into a place where now... Hey guys, so I'm back. I just got a call from my mentor, who's so lovely. I really enjoy speaking with him. But back to what I was talking about, I just watched back the whole video again. So I was up to talking about how the analytical side of me should have taken over, but because I didn't make the best decisions, I am stuck in a situation that's a bit shit now. But really, worst case is losing a bit of money. So losing my bond, losing some rent. In the grand scheme of things, I feel like it's fine. It was a really good experience to learn from and grow from. And I think that going through that, having my own property now and being a, I guess, property manager for this property has been a great experience. What, I guess, my value systems are when I'm dealing with this, because it's such a tricky situation. Like, it's very, very logical, financial, analytical, but on the other side, you're dealing with a lot of people. Like, much of the time that I was dealing with this, I felt very much in between the tenants who were, you know, super attached to the place, or had their own, you know, like, people talking to me about how plane tickets back to Europe are really expensive and they're 10 grand, and, you know, like, these sub stories, which is fine, like, I get it. But then at the same time, like, the landlord being like, I need to pay for my mortgage, and how am I supposed to pay it? And like, just feeling like I was in the middle. And obviously there were consequences for me that I'm, you know, handling with now. But yeah, like, making the decision to pay back my tenant's bond, even though it wasn't part of their contract, because they should have given me 4 weeks notice, but they gave me like 3 days to say I'm you know, flying back to France or something. So yeah, like I guess knowing what I know now and really taking that with me to make better informed business decisions, better informed relationship decisions, better informed, like housing and family and life and travel and all these decisions, it's definitely made me stronger as a person, and it's made me able to handle situations that are trickier and that are really multifaceted and that are really difficult, in not just having this one specific route to take. There are so many consequences, so many pros and cons attached to each decision and each kind of channel. That's definitely a test in itself. So overall, that's kind of my story. I'm sure there's kind of other parts of it that can pitter out into other videos, but that's the general gist of my property update and my property story. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment below. And please like and subscribe if you like this video, and I look forward to chatting with you soon. See ya.